Well, hello, X, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitch, Facebook, and we're actually streaming this to two YouTube channels at the same time. The Data Driven channel, and the Frank's World TV channel and the Impact Quantum YouTube channel. And because this is kind of a hybrid show, I'm going to post the audio feed for this on Data Driven, and as well as Impact Quantum. I have with me the most quantum curious person I know, Candice Gahuli. How's it going, Candice?
It's great. I'm really excited to talk today. I just got all jazzed up by the song.
There
So
you go. That's why I like that little like kind of like early Spice Girls kind of Euro pop mix, right? Like
yeah, I
that.
love it.
I actually made that with AI, and that was the prompt. Like kind of like if you're familiar with that era of music, Venga Boys. Um, the tool I use, like, I'm sorry, I can't use that name, but I can substitute like the keywords for that. So yeah, and there's actually an extended mix too. So which I might put on Spotify one day. I don't know.
That's awesome.
So yeah, so the big news, and you can tell by my hat, is Nvidia GTC was this week. I have my badge. It's still going on, but the expo floor is closed, and sadly, I only have an expo floor pass. So, which I like being on the expo floor. I was, as someone called, booth babe, which I suspect I think is a compliment, but. I worked the booth for a lot, which was cool because I got to meet a lot of interesting people, coming to the Red Hat booth and talking about our solution and product and getting the word out that we're not just a Linux company, right? Jensen Huang and the keynote, Jensen being the CEO of Nvidia, in case you didn't know, he and co-founder. There's actually a very interesting book called The Nvidia Way, which I highly recommend you listen. I listened to it on Audible. Speaking of which, Audible is a sponsor of all our shows. And if you go to thedatadrivenbook.com, you can get one free book. I recommend, it's called The Nvidia Way. I think the guy author's name was Tae Kim, Taekim. And you'll get one free book. And if you decide to get an Audible subscription, which you should because it's freaking awesome. I live and die by audiobooks, mostly because if I'm not traveling for work, I'm driving the kids around. So it's definitely a safe way to keep up. I also have wicked cool headphones, so I can listen to this while I'm walking around and still be involved in what's going on around me. So yeah, it was an exciting week. I think this is the first GTC conference. So I think it originally stands for Gamers Technology Conference, which really shows kind of the origin story of NVIDIA, being primarily a video card. And what's very interesting is how that whoops, there we go. I'm having some equipment issues, although it is nice to be in the studio because this way I have full bandwidth and a full screen, so I can have all the cool bells and whistles and stuff. Yeah, so I was talking to you, I was texting you, I was messaging you like, oh my God, there's a lot of quantum here, right? So the couple of things really stood out from the keynote on day one, and I think really kind of set the whole tone for it. Obviously, it's in DC, right? So we kind of talked about the importance of American innovation, the importance of America staying ahead on AI. He talked about the importance of open source, and he talked about quantum computing, which I'm like,
There you go. I mean, GTC used to be primarily known as, the hardware conference.
right.
And now it's about, AI ecosystems and industrial transformation and robotics and AI and quantum hybrid computing.
I mean,
So
it was cool. Like there was something for everyone, right? There was a lot of robots on the floor. I don't think this one was as kind of crazy manic as the California one, because as I'm told, the California one, you can't walk because it was just so crowded with people. This one was a little more. I didn't have problems getting places, although I think some sessions had overflow rooms. But it was cool. Like, it was nice because it's just it's a relatively short drive for me to go down to DC. So it was definitely a lot of fun. You know, the bandwidth situation in the DC Convention Center definitely could have benefited from some of NVIDIA's tech. Uh,
Well, that's right. Didn't you create a couple shorts, right?
I did. I created. So what I ended up doing, I had a live stream that I did from the phone, walking. From basically, I parked at the Westin, and I walked over to the convention center. And I used to work there, right? So the Microsoft office on K Street is like right there, so I kind of know the area. And I kind of the normal parking garages I would use back when I worked there were completely full. So I had to scramble, like, oh my God, where am I going to park? Right. And parking in DC is miserable. In fact, the only thing more miserable than the parking in DC is the metro in DC, or for me to metro in. So a lot of people are like, wait, you drove? And I'm like, yeah, because I can be miserable in traffic in my comfort of my own car, as opposed to being miserable like on the train. But
I would choose my car too. I would choose my car.
yeah,
Yeah.
you and I, we grew up in New York, and like we did our time on mass transit. Like
Yeah.
I'm done with it. Like um, the only mass transit line I really liked was when I lived in Germany, and then and as far as the U.S., Metro North was pretty awesome
Yeah.
compared to everything else. But like, yeah, Metro North, it's not as good as that. But I also don't live off of a Mark line, which is kind of like the Maryland version of Metro North.
Okay.
Um, but um, but it was cool. It was great. So the some of the big announcements for me, what really stuck out was kind of the national security angle of it, right?
Yes.
And
That was
if you look
mhm.
here, I have some pictures that I took. Like there were sections that were reserved for congressional staffers, right? There were a couple of cases where, let's see if I can change up that scene. There we go. Congressional staffers had their own seats, which I think was very telling. I think a couple of the panels had elected officials. I think the senator from Indiana was there, and also Jensen Huang has kind of figured out kind of the DC kind of ecosystem pretty well for a tech company. Um, I mean, he basically hit all the right notes, and I've sat in a lot of these kind of government focused technology conferences. This was interesting because it was kind of a lot of non-government people, a lot of government people, a lot of uniformed service members are walking through. A lot of people walking through worked for various departments of the federal government, and a lot of us were surprised because they're all on furlough. So like, what is that? How do you do that while you're on furlough? And people were like, well, we can not get paid and go to the office, or not get paid and come here, right? So this is way more interesting. Now I don't know. I'm not going to say what agency that gentleman worked for, but I thought that was an interesting thing. So there were a lot of feds there. It was also very interesting from a if you haven't watched the keynote, the actual live stream keynote that he gave, it's very inspiring, right? He kind of puts this into perspective. And the Nvidia creative team really had a good kind of storytelling, right? Like one of the segments starts from, this was like, the first video game that shipped that used an Nvidia accelerator, and then kind of through the years, like what those video games look like, and also just a lot of good stuff there. And they had hardware out on display. If you go here, this is me on a admiring the some of the graphics cards. That card there is I think about 300 watts of power on its own. And the systems that were displayed along next to it all had like four of them in a row, right? So these were serious metal, right? And I have a lot of YouTube shorts out there, and maybe I'll show them here, but where I kind of go through all of these things. Um, there were robots everywhere, Candace. I never seen
Oh,
so many
wow.
robots in one place. So,
That's fantastic.
um, and if you go to Frank's World TV on YouTube, like there's a lot of shorts I have. So what I ended up doing ultimately was, since I wanted to live stream from the actual convention center, I couldn't because the band was just miserable. Like you'll see in the live stream, as soon as I get inside the building, about 50 feet inside the building, it just goes dead. So rather than kind of suffer through that, I was like, you know what? Let me, I'll record some video and I'll try to upload it. But when I tried to do anything kind of like long form, like horizontally, it took forever to upload. So I'm like, you know what? Let me do just a bunch of shorts. So that's why so whenever I saw something cool, I capture a couple of like, quick 30-second, minute-long video. And this here is Booz Allen's um, platform, I guess, because the robot, everything in green basically is a Boston Robotics thing.
Okay.
Everything on top of that is some proprietary thing that Booz Allen, big consulting firm here in the DC area, um, has kind of put on top of it. So in here, which I don't know why I'm pointing with my mouse because you can't see it, but if you look, there's a lidar sensor. There's a another thermal camera. It's a FLIR camera up in the front. The gray thing you see there. The round thing is the lidar. And in the back, in that little box right behind it, the big box in the back is a tactical radio. And the little thing inside of that tan kind of rectangular box is a Jetson Nano.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So they've taken extra intelligence and put it on top of that. And there's a lot of cool stuff like that. One of the funniest things to happen is that people are actually cosplaying, walking around the convention center as Jensen.
Okay.
And I gave them, at the booth we had these hats, but we also had red fedoras, so I was giving that out. And those were very popular. We ran out of those within, I think, the first 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah, that's good swag. That's good swag.
We went through like I think 200 of them, and then we found like an extra 50 on the second day, and they were gone in like 10 minutes. So people kept coming by like, "Hey, can I get some of that? Can I get one of those?" Like, we're out. And but it's also great marketing from Red,
Mhm.
because like,
Mhm.
literally the company name is, the product, right? So it was pretty cool. And these guys are funny. I actually did a short video with them, and he was walking around pretending he was Jensen. So the shtick is that the guy on the right is, they were both his digital twins. That was basically it.
Okay.
And they were looking for his third. So what makes this really funny is that Jensen is as the CEO and co-founder of a $5 trillion company. He's supposedly really down to earth. I never met him in person, but like he'll walk around the expo floor and like introduce himself. And there's always like he was like, I saw him from about 20 feet away, and I'm like, please come here. So we had everything ready, but he didn't. But at the one in March though, he did come by the Red Hat booth, and he's like, he's like, "Hey, Red Hat," like, and one of my team members handed him like, we had a scarf, and he's like, "This is awesome," and he put it on. And he goes, "I remember installing you guys way back in the day." Like, it was kind of cool. And so this was pretty funny. But my favoriteest person I met was, well, this guy was cool. This is he lives in Raleigh. This guy, whoops. And he doesn't work for Red Hat, but he does a lot of videography type stuff. So he had the most impressive rig, and he had, what you don't see. You see obviously the big camera.
Mhm.
That is a stabilizer, and then below him he has a 360 camera. So he's able to kind of capture literally everything from that one rig. So definitely, I feel like I have to up my equipment game. But
Wait,
cool.
you just got a new toy.
I did just get it. Yeah, my budget is blown for a while. Like, it's the DGX Spark is what you're referring to.
Yes, yes.
So they actually had some giveaways of those, and it was definitely like, the hot thing that people were excited about. So it did feel kind of good to be one of the cool kids and be like, I have a DGX Spark, like, and everybody's like, and the funny thing is, a lot of people didn't know you can buy them at Micro Center. Like, that's where I got mine. A lot of people were waiting on theirs to get delivered. Although at the conference, they actually had a store and you could buy them.
Wow.
Yeah, though I would imagine with DC sales tax being what it is, the sales tax on mine was about $250. I think in DC it would be closer to like $350.
Right,
But
right.
hey, you have it right then and there, right?
Mhm.
So this person here, this is Maria Shah. She is the YouTuber behind the channel Python Simplified. And she goes to a lot of these NVIDIA events. So I'm like, I'm a big fan. So I was like, hey, stop by the Red Hat booth. And she didn't stop by the Red Hat booth,
It's awesome.
So that was cool. Like, it was cool to meet her. She is taller in person than I thought, which is kind of funny, but she's super cool. And she has like a mini entourage, and they were all like super cool. Like, one guy was like, no, no, no. Like, I picture her wearing this hat, and he's like, no, no, you got to get the right angle. You got to get the right angle. The guy was doing that. Like, I was like one of her people, and I was like, and he was super cool. So the yeah, it was a great conference. And let's see if I have any other pictures. Oh yeah, there she is. This is the one that he was like, no, 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 you got to get, like, with the branding and stuff like that. So very cool. But she's really awesome. And I only recently found out that she started her career as, and she's relatively young. I didn't ask her age because that's totally impolite, but she's definitely younger than I am. And she's already changed careers. I think she originally was, and she only recently shared this. She was originally a graphic designer,
Isn't
which
that
is interesting. Yeah. And then she's made the switch into, I think originally, if you look through her, like her older stuff on YouTube, it was mostly Python development, right? Kind of like web development with Python and stuff like that. And then gradually, you've got more as the AI kind of data thing. So, good on her. Like, I think career changes are going to be kind of the new norm, right?
Yeah, I mean, in every aspect of your life, you have to be adaptable. You have to be flexible, and
Absolutely.
that you say that just to handle social interactions. It has to also do with your profession.
Right.
You have to change, and you have to be willing to, and know that it's scary, and do it anyway,
Right. Right.
right?
Right. Right. I
And
mean, I'm actually coming up on the anniversary of when I got laid off from Microsoft. So most people don't know I did two stints at Microsoft, one five and a half year stint, and another like 3.5 year stint. So the first stint ended because they were like, you got to move to Seattle or else. And speaking of Microsoft, I saw some folks I used to work with at Microsoft, so that was cool. They were working the Microsoft booth, yeah, yeah. So we got to catch up and stuff like that. And the nice thing about being a Red Hat is that people really like Red Hat because we don't have, you know, we work with everybody, right? So like the Microsoft guy was saying like how crucial Red Hat is to a lot of his deals, right? He makes a lot of money. He's what they used to call it TSP, and he's like, yeah, like Red Hat helps me make my number, right? AWS people will say that too, right? It's a very rare kind of company where virtually everybody will work with us, which is kind of nice. And so I was faced with that, right? I was a Windows Phone developer, right? And I made the transition into data science
Mhm.
almost 10 years ago now. And yeah, and I didn't really want to move to Seattle, but the real thing that blocked me from like wanting to relocate was the fact that my family is all on the East Coast. My in-laws were all on the East Coast. My mom stubbornly stayed in New Jersey way longer than she needed to
Right.
after my dad died. And so I think I made the right decision for my family. Plus, my wife has her own career here in the DC metro as a Fed, so it just made a lot of sense. But what's really funny, Candace,
Mm.
is the whole. Let me share this. This is a little bit of self promotion, I suppose. Um, this here is the blog post that Pluralsight did on me.
Well, that was very cool, though. I mean, like, we can take
It
a moment.
was cool.
That was very,
Thank
very
you.
cool.
Thank
It really
you.
was cool, and you deserve it because, like, it came from your love of lifelong learning, and who can't respect that? You know,
Right.
that's what's so fantastic about it. Like,
And you
so
could tell we're recording live because you have like a phone.
yeah, we're gonna ignore that. We're gonna ignore that. We're gonna turn
um,
that off.
so they did this really nice story about like, kind of like, the situation I was in was I really was a Windows Phone developer, and it was just kind of like not not a good time to be in it. I was the only company that would had any kind of thing related work to that was Microsoft. And every single job I applied to that year at Microsoft, they're like, "No, you have to relocate to Seattle." And I'm like, nah, that's not happening.
Right.
So they did a really nice story, kind of like, really talking about career shifts and changes. Although some people would argue I'm still an engineer, right? So I didn't really change radically. But even if you're in one field, even a field that's, quote unquote, a, great career path, like software or development, what it looks like is going to change from the moment you get your degree or graduate from a boot camp is radically going to change, right? When I look back at my classes, the one that the basically was introduction to relational databases, right? SQL and all that. That's the one that has probably changed the least, right? Everything else is kind of like, the language. No one uses Pascal. No one uses Fortran. No one uses ProLogic. And what was the other one? There was some AI course I took. I'm blanking on whatever language that was, but that is completely irrelevant to today's AI, right?
Mhm.
Um, so it's just cool. And basically Pluralsight has this, whole thing. And today, Candace, is day 1100, if you can believe that.
That's fantastic. I
Yeah.
mean, but legitimately finding how much time a day?
5 minutes, 10 minutes. Today I managed to put in like 30 minutes.
But just to say I'm going to learn something new,
Right.
and that's, I mean, that's really been, my entire last year, with, impact quantum and data driven, just learning something new every day and figuring out what's useful and what, is just a lot of hype and I can kind of not really worry about it, right? But being willing to learn.
Yeah. I mean, that is going to be the adaptability, and particularly this is even before kind of people are freaking out about AI taking away all the jobs, right? Even before that, you really needed to be adaptable, right? And I know people that, I mean, honestly, for me, I wish I could say I started off with that mindset, but it really took major life crises, crises. What's the plural crisis? Um,
No.
but it took multiple things, like whether it was the dot-com bust followed by 9/11, for me to go from being a Java developer to a .NET developer, and then going from basically being a Windows kind of admin slash developer engineer, to data science and AI, also took a major crisis, right? Like, it's one thing, the previous time I was laid off, I had no wife, I had no kids, right? I didn't have a mortgage, right? The second time it happened, I did have all of those, right? So it was definitely sometimes panic and fear and loathing can lead to motivation.
Look, I mean, my career started, I was an English women's studies communication major. I graduated from Barnard College of Columbia University,
Which is kind of a
and
big deal.
I
It's
worked
legit.
very hard, thank you.
It's
Uh,
legit Ivy League.
legit, and I went into publishing. That's where I landed my first job, and I loved being around books. That was pretty obvious. Um, I remember one of my experiences was when Bridget Jones's Diary came out, in paperback, and I was at Penguin Putnam at the time, and just figuring out how to keep all the stores in stock to keep it, riding that
Right.
bestseller wave. And then finally, publishing was condensing, and then I emigrated to Canada, and I knew publishing, but that's when I started in technology and went into pub ed tech. And I was selling, all kinds of technology to every developer that I could find, just evolving with the market.
I think that's where I first met you. You were like a Silverlight conference or something like that, at the Manning booth, or
Yep.
was it? Yeah, it was Manning.
Mhm. And that's what it was. I mean, I had to, learn and understand everything, talking about Silverlight to Python to, and then it became to understanding, machine learning and TensorFlow and
Right.
PyTorch. And now, just delving into quantum and being a little bit obsessed with quantum biology. That's all, and quantum chemistry and quantum consciousness. Um, that's really tickled me
Yeah, we
recently.
have a great show on in the queue about quantum, where we don't go into it in detail, but we do talk about it with a legitimate researcher, right?
Mhm,
Who does,
mhm.
like, you know, we get into a good conversation with her about space satellites and stuff like that, and kind of like what's the logistics of that, like, because like, and I got the answer to my question of like why laser, like what the acronym behind laser means. Like for me, I never got a good answer until that show. So
Right.
if you're not already subscribed, do subscribe. That was a cool conversation.
And how we're going, you can connect up in space. It's very different than connecting here down at Earth, right?
Well, yeah. Plus the notion of you have like she didn't give it in freedom units. She gave them in kilometers, but like it's actually if you have the longest sub-ocean floor cable is something like 40,000 kilometers, and it's actually faster to go up to a satellite and then back down because that's more of a it'll end up less than 40,000 kilometers. Right. Plus, there's also, and this is the part I have to listen to it again because I understood it when she said it, and now I can't describe it. Like, but there's some quantum phenomena that would get lost through going through all the repeaters on terrestrial cables. Whereas if you bounce to the satellite is only the only repeater. So you have one repeater.
Right. I remember that. I remember we were really blown away by that.
I don't remember why that mattered. I'll have to listen to it again, but
Right.
but it did matter.
It did. Oh, it absolutely mattered.
Yeah.
And it had to do, I think, with the distance.
I thought it was the repeaters.
Well, that they brought down the distance that it had to
I think
travel.
it was distance, but it was also repeaters because like, you need to repeat. You need to have a repeater, even for fiber, which I didn't know that. So basically, the signal will lose strength over a certain amount of time.
Right.
And then you have to amplify it every time. So because it's 40,000 kilometers and it has to go through a tube, basically the cable, you need repeaters every so often. And each one of those repeaters would have to have special magic, hand wavium, to preserve the quantum space, quantum information input that it gets, and then on the output. And there's a whole lot of barriers. She explains it really well. I'm not going to, but there's a whole lot of barriers that how do you preserving that information is not trivial. Right. So it's just easier to throw something in orbit that can do it just once and then back down. So you also get the distance benefit too, right? And that pesky speed of light thing keeps coming up. So,
but this is going to be an upcoming. It's an upcoming show.
Yeah,
it's very exciting.
I think 2 shows from now.
She's brilliant.
Yeah, she was cool. Yeah. But yeah, speaking of quantum, there was a lot of quantum companies there, like out on the expo floor. So it was really cool. So I bumped into, and I gave everyone like, my contact information. I was like, hey, we got this, and, Impact Quantum. And so I bumped into, the display thing is not cooperating with me. There it is. So Inflection was there. Quantum Machines was there. Quera was there. Yuval's company was there. Right. Mm-hmm. He wasn't there, but like the people knew him. So there was a lot of, so I introduced myself to everybody there, like, hey, because we're always looking for guests. So that's a plug for if you're a quantum company, if you're listening. It's ditto for data driven, right? I mean, it's what's interesting is, and I kind of suspected this like a couple of years ago, like people always like, why are you interested in quantum, right? Because I'm like, there's gonna be an overlap of AI and quantum very
absolutely
soon.
100%.
And like, and I also kind of like a year ago kind of said, it's looking like Nvidia one day will be thought of more as a defense contractor and critical to national defense. When I said it, I looked like I was a lunatic. But if you watch the keynote, I highly recommend you go do that. Like, it's not that hard of a stretch. He didn't say it in so many words, but it was pretty clear, like the writing's on the wall. Like, this is a national security issue, right? And props to Jensen Huang for setting the stage for who the adversary is without saying that said adversary by name.
Okay.
And since I think his family's from Taiwan, so like it's pretty close to home.
It's very close to home.
In a lot of ways, right? No, it's just very impressive. Kind of like
it's these emerging intersections.
Yeah.
That are what's really the most exciting. Like when you think about robotics, and then you think about AI, and then you think about quantum hybrid.
Yeah, I
compute.
mean, these are not isolated silos of technology. These
No.
are very closely integrated. And, my advice to anyone out there is, get good at one, right? Because it's very easy to look at all this and get overwhelmed, right? But get good at one silo and then at least have a passing understanding, conversational understanding of the other ones, right? Think of it like human languages, right? You obviously have your native language. And if you don't have to be totally fluent in a second language. But as long as you can kind of like have a base understanding and kind of ability to get around, that is going to open up more doors for you. And I think the same is true in tech, right? Like, obviously my home base is data science and AI. Uh, but soon, maybe one day, quantum, right? I'll be able to explain why the satellites are better um, than the landlines. But I think it's also interesting to realize like how much we do know about quantum more than the average technologist, right? Because people are asking me like, why is quantum a big deal? And I was explaining it, and it was people like, oh, okay, you know, and it's like it's hard. I'm like, yeah, it's very hard. Like, when I first heard about it, like I would go 15 minutes, I'd get a migraine, I'd have to stop, right?
Right. But then
um,
you break it down and you understand
right,
that, quantum is important. It's important for
right.
certain businesses, certain sectors, way more than others. It will affect all sectors, but
And
the
some are more obvious than others, right? Like there's going to be some sectors that are going to immediately be impacted, right? Security, IT security being probably the most obvious.
I think health is another really obvious.
Health is another one. Anything where you have to simulate chemistry,
Yes. Oh my
right?
God. I spoke to a phenomenal woman yesterday. We're going to have her on the show,
Hmm.
and she is this molecular chemist. And she is just fascinated about the intersection of chemistry, biology, and quantum. And it's just so important to understand the intersections there. And that's going to be a great conversation as well. Sorry, I
Right.
got excited about that.
No, it's a very exciting time to be. Like, I mean, honestly, like if I, to one conference had robots, had AI, had quantum computing, like all in one place, man. It doesn't get much better than that. What was really interesting though was this was kind of talked about in the keynote where he talks about one of the server racks that they have for their supercomputer is like over 2 million parts, right, from like hundreds of different suppliers. So you have to give it props to Nvidia's like logistics, plus also the electrical systems that they need, the cooling system. Like they had like a couple of exhibits were talking about like different cooling system, liquid cooling, high efficiency air cooling. There was MC Dean and a Schneider Electric. A couple of electric companies were there. Not like electric company, the kids show when we were kids, but
Right.
electrical engineering companies were there because it matters, right? Like all of this stuff has to happen somewhere in the physical world, and very often that's in Loudoun County, Virginia. But that's a topic for another show. Um, but yeah, so this is some of the swag. So in the keynote room, they had T-shirts. So um, which was pretty cool. And then we have this bag, which I'm gonna see if I can get my kids to nerd out and trick or treat with this. Um, but some of the swag in here was really good. Like my favorite bit of swag was this thing. Um, see if I can see that. It's basically like an adapter.
Oh,
So it also has this. So this is probably the most useful bit of swag. There's other cool stuff in here too. There's what I think is a luggage tag for F5 networks. And this isn't just the other stuff I collected. Um, there's whose socks are these? AWS socks
okay.
with the DC skyline. That's kind of cool. Um, Guardians of the AI keychain, or is that a pin keychain? Um, Hand sanitizer, but like in a business card type thing,
Okay.
which I thought was pretty cool. And then I did get quantum machine socks. They're upstairs. Pens, the usual kind of swaggy type stuff. Google Cloud Pen, and so yeah, it was definitely a very productive a couple days. I definitely am gonna kind of binge watch all the sessions because as far as I know, everything was recorded, so that'll be kind of nice. And Yeah, it was awesome, and I thought it would be cool to kind of share this across both shows, right? Because these are two very related fields, right? AI and quantum computing. Um, because you know whether you're using actual quantum computers or simulated ones, it's all going to be some form of linear algebra, which happens to be what these GPUs are really good at. And the keynote really did a good job of putting it all into perspective in terms of, um, you know, it was a little braggadocious, but I guess when you're worth $5 trillion, you can,
Yeah, I guess so, right?
I would, dear Lord, please give me that problem.
Oh my God, I'm
Um,
constantly making trouble today. Okay,
Now it's Murphy's Law, man. As soon as I crack open a book or start a call,
right?
guaranteed somebody.
Exactly.
Um, like so the See, folks, we really do record these live.
We really do
Um,
live today, folks. We really do.
but
That's
these
why
but
you hear
these
lots of
are
getting get
but
up for a second.
these are interesting times in terms of um,
There we go.
cool.
Sorry about that, folks.
That's okay. It really is live. So also, we're streaming this on multiple YouTube channels. So if you're a lot of channel growth on both channels, both Frank's World and the Impact Quantum channel. So wherever platform you're liking, if you can like, share, and subscribe, that'd be great. Leave a comment if you have any questions. But there's definitely a lot to digest from this show in terms of, from robots to quantum computers. The big thing that they released was the NVQ link, which is an interesting I would say little project, but it's not little. Um, it is basically like a network bandwidth. I totally want to geek out on this, and I would be lying if I said I knew that much about it. But everybody was just going crazy over it, right?
Yeah, I think
So
there's a lot of potential there, right? I mean, a lot of potential to just kind of set the pace for quantum networking.
100%, right? And just the high speed bandwidth. Because hang on a second, my wireless headset batteries were low when it was beeping at me, so I had to take those off for a second. Um, but no, like I mean, just kind of even if you don't use it, it's basically a high speed, low latency interconnect um, between both quantum processors as well as GPU based ones, right? So this is, I mean, the stat was just unbelievable. Like it could, this thing could house, I mean, terabits of information could be shared across this, right? So the whole notion of what it takes to build a computer and bus speeds can be completely reimagined now because of this, right? And
Mhm.
the idea is that when you do have you'll see in the picture, right there's the chandelier. Um, those are going to need some kind of controller system. So you have these hybrid systems that are both GPU superclusters and an actual quantum computer. So I think that and you'll notice that they did a really good job here of showing at least three different types, right? There's this one. I think that's the Rigetti. This one, I forget the name of it, but they had these all out on the floor.
Okay.
And you'll have to go watch the YouTube shorts to kind of see me walk around them and stuff like that. But I mean, it was just and this is just so much going on in so many different directions. One of the companies there was a robotics company, and I overheard the pitch. Um, Basically, the too long didn't read of the pitch was you don't buy the robots from them, you pay them $20 an hour, basically per robot. That was basically the idea. So
That
don't quote
makes
me on that. Overheard that.
that makes it much more,
Competitive, right?
yeah, because you're gonna think, okay,
Especially
I gotta spend how much money to get one robot.
right, and whatever the accounting magic you need to make that make sense.
Right,
Right? You
right,
don't that doesn't really apply anymore, right? It's completely um,
right.
you
Because
know,
I don't even know if that's
and minimum wage in some
wage.
places is $15, right? So
So
like it's not, and these workers could work 24/7. They don't get sick. I mean, they'll break down, but Yeah, I mean, the labor market is about to get seriously disrupted,
Yeah.
and um, I think everybody over the next 5, 10 years is going to have to experience some kind of career disruption and retraining, right? So, if you don't like learning, um, get used to it. you
Right.
know, eat your vegetables, right? Is kind of like the thing. Learn to like the vegetables. That makes it a lot easier when you eat them. But it's fun, right? And I think I
Oh, I think
enjoy.
just some of the stuff that I've learned, like the
Yeah,
AI tools. I mean, I'm having the best time. I
yeah,
mean, I'm like, is this even, am I working right now? I don't even I feel like I'm enjoying what I'm creating. I'm enjoying what I'm sharing, and
right.
I'm doing it in a way that's incredibly digestible to all kinds of folks. And
And
that's what I'm
people
looking to do.
and people need translators, right? People
Mhm,
that can understand the deep technical side of it and explain it in more human terms,
mhm.
right? And I gave my stump speech yesterday. Somebody was like, how do I get in one of there was a recent graduate was there. A lot of university students were there too, which I think Nvidia gave them like a sweetheart deal to attend.
Oh, well, I
So
think
a lot
that's
of
so important, though. I mean,
it really is, right? Well, it's smart too, right? Because one, it's it's the right thing to do, right? But it's also going to
it's the
build out
next
their
generation.
talent pipeline,
Yeah,
right?
it's the next generation of talent.
Um,
Get them while they're excited
I met
about what they're
students.
doing.
I met students from Morgan State, GMU, University of Maryland, University of Kentucky. They actually drove from Cincinnati area to here, and though I mean it was just a bunch of universities. Um, and Virginia Tech was actually a sponsor of the conference, which I thought was interesting.
Oh, that is interesting.
Their logo was up there, and I was like, "Yeah, that is interesting." And probably a bunch of other universities just didn't notice it. Their logo is very stands out,
Okay.
um,
Well, then they did
and
it the right way.
they did it the right way. Yeah, that's exactly right. Um, so it was a very it was one of the more unique conferences I've ever been to, right? Um, because it really was at the confluence of national security, Fed type stuff, cutting edge robotics, cutting edge AI, quantum computers. You had students, you had federal employees, you had uniformed service members, you had congressional policymakers, people showing up. It was a unique mix that you don't see in a lot of places.
Right, right.
So it was really cool. I'm hoping to go to the big one in California, which is going to be suppose somebody told me that it's wall to wall people and increasingly over the last few years, wall to wall robots too. So,
Right, right. More of that
um,
in California. I mean, that's the thing you wanna this is
right.
kinda set the stage for you
Yeah,
for what
yeah,
to expect for the next one, right?
yeah, exactly.
I mean,
And Nvidia's really got a lot of things figured out, right? Like it's not just the hardware; they have the software layer with CUDA. Jensen does a far better job of explaining it in the first 10 minutes of the keynote. But I mean, no wonder why they're worth 5 trillion. Like it's no surprise.
it's always live. It's always things are
Always
always
live.
going on at the
Always
Gabouly
live.
House.
For
Always
those
going on.
someone came into her home office while we were so if you're listening you didn't see it, but so I was kind of like
I was very sleepy,
um
and I
but
found the point.
so thanks for joining us live. I don't see any active questions in the queue, but if I met you at the conference, very nice to meet you. Definitely looking forward to getting hands on with the Spark. That was also cool. Everybody's like, "Do you have a Spark? Do you have a Spark?" And,
Well,
you
that kinda
know,
puts you on a different echelon, you
I
know what I'm
know.
saying?
I was like one of the
You're like,
cool
"Yeah,
kids.
I got a spark," you
There was
know?
like rolling up to high school in like a Beamer, or in my neighborhood it was really an IROC. But um, that puts me in a very interesting time and place in history, I suppose.
There you go.
But yeah, no, it was really cool. I think the future looks amazing. Um, and I think there's just so much opportunity in this space. Oh, the one last thing was like there was this Nvidia had like a whole startup area. So apparently Nvidia has like a startup program and stuff like that. Really cool stuff. A lot of innovative stuff there. One of the best signs I saw, which was behind the Red Hat booth, it was kind of like the next aisle over, was they had this huge sign that said AI took my job, right? And big text, and the little text said, to another level.
Oh,
I
but
was like, that's clever.
right. I mean, what did someone say? It's not that AI is going to take away your job. It's that the person who knows how to use AI
It's going to take away your job.
is going to take away. And I'm like,
Well,
okay.
I was like, look at the stuff we do, right? We're not a big team here, right? We're not, you know, look at what we're able to accomplish,
Yeah, absolutely.
And that would not have been, it would have been doable. It wouldn't have been feasible without AI,
Right.
right? Because sadly, I do have to sleep sometimes.
And you got three kids.
I got 3 kids. Yeah.
There you go.
So
Well, I'm really happy that we talked about this because honestly,
yeah,
the conference looked really exciting.
it was
It's
awesome.
always nice to hear from somebody
Yeah,
who's there, get them to download, some of that information.
absolutely.
I thought it was really
Absolutely.
exciting.
Fun fact, we actually re-recorded this. We pre-recorded something the day before I went, and I was like, no, so much was there that we have to redo it.
I'm like, let's
So let us know in the comments if you want to hear kind of like the original. It'll be like the original cut of Star Wars and kind of like the remix, that sort
You'll
of thing.
let us know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm super excited. It was cool to connect with former people I work with at Microsoft. And these are people that go way back, like back to when it was called DPE, Developer Platform Evangelism. Like it was
Oh,
like,
wow.
he was talking about like, we had some interesting war stories we could share and stuff like that. And
Back in 1900 in Hoodly-Hoo. Yeah.
no, it was 2000 something, but yeah, I'm right there with you. This was when Windows Phone still was a thing. So way back. Um, but yeah, and plus it was really cool to meet like Maria Shah from Python Simplified. She's awesome. Shout out to you, Maria. Um, you know, not only have you also career transition, you've done it very well, and I think your videos are always positive and helpful to help other people follow that path too, right? Um, you know,
And that's what we try to do here,
right.
being quantum curious. We're saying, you don't have to have a PhD,
No,
but that doesn't mean that you can't be in the conversation. It doesn't mean you can't understand.
I gave that some speech yesterday. I was like, look, you don't have to be a PhD in this, right? They're going to need customer solution architects. They're going to need or customer success, whatever they're called now, CSAs. You're going to need people to rack and stack this stuff. You're going to need people that can market it. You're going to need business development. You're going to need sales leaders. You're going to need all of that stuff. You are going to need.
Yeah.
And not every one of them is going to need a PhD. In fact, one of the guests said there's already too many PhDs in this field, which is kind of funny, right? So actually, speaking of which, Candace, that is an excellent segue. No wonder why you're a master marketer. So this is our book here that we wrote, and it is. I think I can move it
It's
over
up there. It says Quantum Sales Playbook. There we go.
There you go. Quantum Sales Playbook, and it's basically a sales playbook that is for startups. For anyone in really emerging tech fields, right? I wrote this around quantum based on what I experienced with AI, because I've been doing AI now about 10 years, right? And majority of that has either been sales or delivering training about AI, right? So actually, I think 8 of those 10 years have been selling AI. 2 of those have been training. Shout out to Wintellect back in the day. But
what's also part of it is from, I don't know, maybe 14 or 15 episodes of the first part of the season, of us talking to experts and understanding,
right.
from all of their perspectives, be them PhDs, be them industry, be them, trying to go over the bridge from one to the other. Hearing what they have to say and what's real, what's actually happening.
One of the guests pointed out, he goes, he does happen to have a PhD, right? And but he realized that he sold the system to a company in Japan, and like they had to fly out a lot of people, like customer success, right, to make sure it up and runs and things like that. And they didn't, I think it was kind of a learning experience. That's why I'm not saying the name. If you want to listen to it, you can figure out who I'm talking about, because that show has been released. And if you're really clever, that we said the name of said company already in this episode. But he was like a learning experience. Like he realized, like, you know, you're going to need people to rack and stack them is basically kind of like the end result, right? Like when somebody buys a solution and it has to be on-prem, you have to set it up, you have to configure it, you have to teach people how to configure it. So you're going to need trainers, you're going to need marketers, you're going to need all of these roles, you're going to need them, right? Do they have to have PhDs in quantum physics? No. In fact, it's probably a waste of their education and skills because the people with the PhDs need to be designing the next version of your product, right? So you need people who are kind of not PhDs. You need people from other disciplines to go in and do this, right? And that's really kind of the gist of this show, right? This Impact Quantum. And the book is really about like, this is really for business developers, startup founders. That's really who this is really meant for, is like, even if you have a PhD, you can't assume everyone else will understand why qubits are important, why they're a big deal, right? And that's the subtitle of the book is Selling Outcomes, not Qubits.
Right. And it's not just for quantum,
No, this could apply to any emerging tech. Right?
Exactly. That's the point. It's for any emerging tech, getting kind of beyond what the technology is into why the solution is going to work. That's
exactly
the more important, aspect of it. So, yeah.
Awesome. And if you run an incubator or like a research facility at a university, we'll give you a copy of it for free, right? We're not doing this for the money. We're just doing this to help nudge along this, right? Give my experience in sales, Candace's experience in marketing, kind of like translate that into quantum, right? It's our contribution to this emerging ecosystem.
Exactly.
Awesome. And that's all I got. Anything else pertinent from the Great White North?
In the Great White North. No, honestly, it's raining. It's raining here today. And it's not white yet. We're gonna need. I mean, and it's been known to snow by Halloween, but
yeah.
I don't think we're gonna have that this year. I think it's
my grandfather grew up in Montreal, so whenever as a kid I would complain about being cold or like the snow, he would tell me it was the ultimate uphill both ways in the snow, being chased by polar bears. Like that was the flourishing kind of stuff I do to my kids now.
because it's time. We should be doing it.
Time, yeah.
Up a little bit. There you go.
Although one of my Weisenheimer kids is like, growing up in New York City, he's like, yeah, uphill both ways in the snow while getting shot at. Like,
oh, okay. Now he's just taking it to the next level. So
for his credit, it was the kids taking it to the next level. So I've raised snarky kids, which is karma, I suppose, coming back to bite me.
Oh, please. I'm from New York, so my kids have a level of sarcasm that's
that's unnatural.
That even though they spent more years in Montreal, people are like, "You're so New York," and like, where are you from?
It kind of sticks with you. Yeah,
it does. I mean, I understand why it sticks with me, but it's from them, and they left there 2 and 4 years old, and now they're 20 and 18. But it's
in the home too, right? It's in the heart, right? Thankfully for me, like I'm still in like the East Coast corridor, right? So Baltimore is kind of like, like a Diet Coke I'm going to get so much hate mail for that, but it's culturally similar enough, kind of got that East Coast vibe.
Right.
So, all right. So with that, we'll let our AI, who is a British AI from the other side of the pond, finish the show. And if you're watching us live on the live stream, you get treated to some extra fancy graphics. So I have my outro graphics that I will play now, assuming I can find it. There it is.